mother, wife,
Air Force veteran,
gun rights advocate.
This is Stacy on the Right. Here's your host, Stacy Washington.
Indeed, you are live and direct with Stacy Washington, host of Stacy on the Right here on SiriusXM's Patriot Channel. And you know what time it is. Top of the hour, hour 2. Welcoming into the show, Kate Monroe, former Marine, success coach and entrepreneur, CEO of multiple companies, founder and CEO of VetCom. The website is vetcom.us. Kate, thank you for your service and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, it's good to have you here. Okay, so let's start off. We have a lot to unpack, and it's a lot going on. But I know you can help us. Yeah, you can help us get there because I have a lot of anger about what's going on in the Middle East. It doesn't have to be what it is right now. If we had better leadership in the United States, I think things would be going much more smoothly for Prime Minister Netanyahu and the IDF. But they're still executing well on their efforts to rout out Hamas and return the hostages home. But there are more situations that have developed since October 7th. Give us the lay of the land.
Well, it really comes down to the inept, soft, feckless leadership that we have in the White House. If you just go back not very far, just a few years back to when Trump was in, he could literally flash a picture of you and your family, and you would understand that if we F around, then we will find out. There is just no finding out anymore. So now you have multiple world wars brewing because we here in the United States, we don't even say anything hardly in regard to our own troops getting injured, let alone are we really willing to take a hard stance and draw hard lines. We're a lot of hot air at this point, and this administration has put the entire globe at risk. So as upset as you are, I am also upset because I serve the active duty military personnel and the veteran community in our country, and people are just appalled by what is going on.
So it feels almost like, people will use the analogy of sleep at the wheel, but this is not asleep at the wheel. This is some drunk, malicious person at the wheel trying to run the car off a cliff. That's what this feels like.
Well, I used to feel like, well, maybe it's malicious neglect. Now I feel like it's malevolent intent, right? There is some malevolence, some insidious evil that's going on. If you just want to correlate what's going on around the world and then our open border, everybody wants to be like, well, they're just inept, they're just feckless, they're just not good at their job. No, you can only be this horrible if you intend to do so. So it has to be our intention to put the whole world into chaos and our whole country at risk. There's no other way to say it. I wish it was them being stupid, but it's not. It's all a planned destruction of the globe.
Yeah, planned destruction. That is an accurate description. So we have Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he's apologizing for the October 7th Hamas attacks, which I'm not sure why he's apologizing, but he's clearly feeling as if he needs to gather and rally the allies of Israel around them. They need the support. They need to be unified and not, as we are here in this country, so divided and completely apart from each other.
I mean, him having to even feel like he needs to pander to the rest of the world to lay out what is very clear as to what happened there. It would be like us apologizing to the world for having got attacked during 9/11. It is just as completely ridiculous. This is a person trying to lead a nation that is in constant turmoil because every other country around them wishes them dead. Not just that they would leave Israel, but the complete annihilation of their race. That is what everyone in that region wants. And we, silence is being complicit. And we are being complicit in what is going on over there in the Middle East, what is going on with China, what is going on with Russia and Ukraine, because we're meddling in the affairs of generational wars and theological battles that we know nothing about. And so we put our toe in and then we take our toe out and then we leave things in chaos.
So how do we get this back to where it needs to be? I mean, I feel as if I know we need a new president, President Biden will never give them the support that they need. But we're
Who
still
even
struggling.
Is President Biden? President Biden? I haven't seen this man. I mean, when is the last time you saw or heard from President Biden?
He recently had a TV interview where he was completely ridiculous, an incoherent mess. But yeah, he's been out. They trot him out about once a week. They trot him out so that we can know he's still alive. It's like a life check.
Yeah, just barely. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, we still have a president. Yeah, don't look over here, world. We're good over here in America. We definitely have a president. Wink, wink. I mean, it's like a movie. I feel like we're watching a bad political thriller here in our country.
Well, political thrillers, though, the older generation of them, newer iterations sometimes have a lot of tragic endings, but old Hollywood, we can now call what we used to call modern Hollywood. Now that's old Hollywood. They used to always make sure that the character arc ended in a good, you had a good moral ending. The hero would win. Sometimes he'd win. He'd be injured. He'd be near death, but he would win. Good would win out. There'd be a resolution to the problem. And I feel like even if Hollywood isn't giving us these stories as much anymore, the true bend and arc of history is towards that same kind of resolution.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's almost like, that cinematic moment, really, when Trump pumped his fist after getting shot. That's the kind of stuff that you're looking for, right? He met that moment in such a way that is unparalleled by any other leader, I think, of our time. Never would somebody be under that much pressure and just stand up and pump their fist and make sure that the American public knew, like, hey, I am still here. I am fine. We will march on. And I really feel like the only resolution that our country needs, that the rest of the world needs, is for President Trump to end up back in the White House. Love him, hate him is not relevant. You're not going to have dinner with him. Set your little emotions aside and realize that we were safer and richer when President Trump was in office. So this notion that you have to like somebody, like I've had many jobs where people liked me, didn't like me, I didn't like them. Guess what? That wasn't part of the pay plan. We knew who was good at their job, and you got to have your job. And quite frankly, short of having President Trump return to the White House, I really feel like World War III is inevitable.
So I agree. If he doesn't win, Kamala, sits back and giggles our way into a war. Sons and daughters are off fighting. I believe that sincerely.
Daughters, yep.
Sons and daughters. I want to be clear if anybody thinks I'm just, I'm not being facetious here. I believe that the Congress will be also Democrats. If she takes office, they will ram it through the Senate, and they will have your daughters signing up for the draft, and it will be men and women going over to trench warfare in Ukraine, literally jumping into a trench to get shot to death. It's like they dig a trench for everybody to go die in. Understand what that means. That's what Kamala Harris will bring to us. Mark the day and the time. You can say, oh, she told us so when it happens. I'm not even going to bother to say it. So I want to make sure that people understand the seriousness of of Bibi Netanyahu feeling he's in a position where he needs to apologize for being attacked and losing over 1,000 of their citizens on October 7th, that he feels he has to apologize for it happening on his watch. This is unbelievable.
It's completely unbelievable, but it's like the same story is being played out, like around the globe. You were just talking about, what if in the event that Kamala Harris gets in? I mean, we're in the middle of the biggest recruiting crisis we've ever had. It will only make it worse. If you think your sons and, more importantly, your daughters are safe getting drafted into the military, you're incorrect. And if you think it won't happen, you're asleep at the wheel, because the only way to shore up your position in a military recruiting crisis is to draft in as many people as you can. Having served in the Marine Corps, I can tell you, if you don't choose to go in and choose your job ahead of time, it will get chosen for you. And it will not be a fun job. It will be a job that sees you deployed away from your family and used as cannon fodder. So there's never a more safe position that your family could be in, you and your children, than to put a man back in office who is willing to speak boldly and carry a big stick. That is what we need. Short of that, kiss your kids goodbye, love on them now, because we will be in a multiple world war that we are inequipped to face right now as a nation.
And the big idea, this is the part that is just I'm having so much trouble with, is that Kamala Harris doesn't have any children. So she doesn't have anything to lose. She literally does not have the same feeling that you're sitting there thinking, oh, she understands, she's a woman, she has no children. She is not like you. She does not have your experiences. She does not have your whatever it is that you think you have in common with her. I find it so funny that people feel like they have something in common with her, right?
Nothing.
Something in common with her, but nothing in common with President Trump, who has children and grandchildren who actually love him, right? These are family members with a good relationship, which is saying something in today's America, where parents are so often separated from their kids, and especially politics. It seems like it's just, and you have President Trump, who plenty of billionaires out there whose kids are estranged. He has a good relationship with all of his children, his children's spouses, the grandchildren. I mean, so he has skin in the game to want to keep us out of war. He wants his children out of war. He wants your children out of war. He wants America out of war. These are two separate candidates. Even if we're just looking at the war issue, forget the other issues, and they're very important. The border, the economy, these are important issues. But just focus in on who wants to start wars and who won't. Kamala will. He won't. That's reason enough for you to put aside every other difference you might have with him and vote for him.
I 100% agree. I actually made a video the other day saying, if I could address the nation, if I could speak to everybody and they could listen for even 30 seconds, I would say you do not understand the gravity of the situation that we find ourselves in. As a person who has dealt with 5,000 U.S. military veterans this year, I understand the gravity of what war does to people, how it unravels their mindset, why it makes them want to kill themselves, how people feel about why they don't want their kids to serve. You do not understand the gravity of what you're doing. Somebody having a rally and having someone famous come and twerk at their concert to get people to come is unbecoming of a person who should be in the highest office in the world. It is a mockery to that job, to that role. It is an offense. And then just the judgment of this person. You want to make crime legal in California? You want to make sure there's as many homeless, drugs, lawlessness in the state that you came from? Then you're going to choose a running mate who's willing to lie about their character of service. These people have no right to be in the position that they are in, and the fact that they're on the menu against a man who will see us out of these wars and bring us back to prosperity is crazy lunacy to me.
It's lunacy, and just to be clear, you spend your time helping these people, these veterans, and you yourself have served. So you're not. This isn't an issue of spoiled grapes, or you just don't. You don't like him, or there's nothing. So there's nothing about Kamala Harris for me to like or dislike. That's the first thing. This is not a woman I'm ever going to be in a book club with or bump into at a luncheon. Her husband and my husband aren't going to be friends at work, and the two of us, be forced to spend time together. There is no like or dislike. These are political candidates. I'm talking about their politics. I wish to goodness sake we could stop having people say, Kamala is brat, and, her running mate, he's just so cuddly, and he's got twinkly blue eyes, and he's so cuddly. I don't think he looks cuddly at all. I don't think he looks fun. I have no interest in his personality. I'm interested in him lying. I'm interested in his stolen valor. I'm not interested in him as a person.
No, and I have, some people that I know, and even that we serve, in the veteran community that, are that left leaning. And I said to a friend the other day, I said, can you explain to me what about these two people as a unit is making you want to vote for them? They're like, well, they're just so much more likable than Trump. I go, that's your litmus test? It isn't whether or not we're safe. It isn't whether or not we have prosperity. It's not whether or not there are multiple world wars going on. It's really because they're likable. I just shake my head because I had a veteran say to me today, he goes, you know what? It was pretty funny when they were calling him Tampon Tim for putting the tampons in the boys' bathroom. But I'm going to tell you what, after the stolen valor, SHIT, his new name is Tall Tale Tampon Tim. So the veteran community looking at this person is like, you served. Why did you have to BS people about it? And then why are you going to come and talk about taking our guns? Are you are you out of your mind? So you basically said, hey, all you Second Amendment guys, don't vote for me. Active duty military, do not vote for me. Veteran community, worried about losing your guns, don't vote for me. I mean, these people are idiots. They do not understand the heart and the will of the American public is not all of this insanity that you find in very few blue cities that end up dictating everything to the rest of our country.
Nope. And veterans especially, there's a way to go about talking to any group of people. But for veterans, they're much more commonsensical, much more down to earth, and they've served with enough people who are politically not the same as them to know that there really isn't the left-right paradigm that so many of us have kind of gotten lulled into in our, you live in a neighborhood that's mostly right-leaning. You live in a neighborhood that's mostly left-leaning. People on active duty, you're serving with that person, whether they are a Bernie Sanders supporter or they've got MAGA hats stacked up in their barracks. You're serving with them. And so you've got to get the job done. Your boss doesn't want to hear about your political differences. So you're going to get it done. When you have that attitude, it's much different. And I kind of wish we had that same requirement here in the private sector, because it would just smooth things out a little. We could get more done, and I think we'd actually still be getting along and enjoying each other the way we used to before we let politics take everything over.
Well, I mean, I'm 45. I grew up as a kid in the 80s. What a time to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want to argue that being a kid in the 80s was the very best time to have grown up. I mean, I swear there was like eagles flying over and the sound of flags waving and fireworks going off at all times, even though there weren't. I feel like that. And now I have a 7-year-old, and I just go, my God, our country is lost for this child. And like, that's why I ran for Congress. I was like, somebody crazy like me has got to go stand in the gap and say, this is BS, and I'm tired of it, and I'm going to go do something about it. It's just, I cry for our kids. This next generation just doesn't know patriotism. It's just sad. It hurts my spirit.
Well, we did have some really fun things that we were able to do, right?
Everything was great.
Your parents never talked about politics that you heard. You never had anybody say you can't go to their house because, that's a right winger, or they're on the left. You can't. I didn't know what my parents' politics were, and until I was in high school. And even then, it wasn't related to anything a friend had said. It was because of something that was on television that I asked my dad, are we Democrats or Republicans? And when he started talking about it, my eyes glazed over, and I thought, why doesn't he just say if we're one or the other? Why is he talking about, the Vietnam War? Like, what is happening right now? And so, I mean, I'm not saying that it was perfect, but if you compare it to what's going on now, it was damn near perfect. The 80s and the 90s as a kid, the best.
If I had a time machine, I would use it to take my son there and just play one day alongside me as a kid. And because the experience that we had was so different. And quite frankly, there's really no reason that we can't have that again. The thing that stands in the way is 1, 24-hour news. The relay of information is too great. You don't even know what to be mad about. 2, it's meant to be divisive. It's meant to put enmity between people and families and ruin people's relationships so the government can control you. It's like we're in a matrix. Like, you watch that movie, you're like, oh, that's really entertaining. Yeah, this is literally what's going on in the world. Unplug yourself. Like, wake up.
It was a bit of a difference. And now here we are. And I look at the way that people talk about things, and we all get upset about politics, but the way people keep saying that Trump is Hitler and J.D. Vance is he's a racist. He's married to a woman of Indian descent, but he's a racist. He has, his children are ethnically mixed, but he's a racist. And the stuff they're saying is so nonsensical. And if you reply, the eyeballs start to bulge and the shaking and the spitting and everything. And you're like, wait a minute. You started this. I just was sitting here minding my own business, and you started calling him a racist. He's married to an Indian woman. They just lose it. They're just like, freaking out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It just.
They did the same thing to me when I ran for Congress. They were like, well, you want to close the border and you're against people of color. I'm like, you're hilarious, because I'm married to a Turkish immigrant liberal, Democrat, atheist, and I have a mixed child. So you can save your nonsense for the next person. You can peddle your wares with.
Liberal, Democrat, atheist. Take that. Sit with that for a minute.
Try, okay? I'm checking every box over here.
I love it. And I'm only saying that because, so your marriage is like how we grew up. Your marriage is no hold bars because you're actually in the relationship for love, not for, we're the same politically. It's tougher to do it that way, but probably ultimately so worth it. And so I just, tell us how to deal with, because I started off the show tonight encouraging people, telling people to just, stop complaining, stop whining about Trump. You don't like he said this, you don't like that. Stop it. Just deal with the fact that it feels great for the Democrats right now because they literally are laying in a bed of their own warm pee and the blanket is around them and they're living their best lives because it's warm. But the minute they get up, they're going to be cold. They're going to realize the stench is them, and it's going to be a really rough time. And that's when they start debating. That's when we actually have Kamala Harris on television being forced to answer questions about her record and everything else. So right now, while everyone is still loving her and loving her running mate and refusing to ask her any questions and refusing to hold her accountable, and voters are waiting. Voters who care, who haven't made up their minds, are waiting to hear what she really stands for. And she's stealing Trump's ideas. Now's not the time for us as Republicans to start whining and complaining and crawling under a rock and hiding like turtles. We've got to be out there fighting, registering people to vote, voting ourselves, banking our vote. We've got to get out there. Do you have any other encouragement or marching orders for everyone as we continue this fight? Yeah,
I do. If you're the kind of person like I am, I go to an amazing, very vocal church, and a lot of Republicans are churchgoers. If you are, pray for your community, for those people you love. Pray for the people who have opposition to your ideology, that God would soften their heart. I pray for our community every day. That's something that you can actively do that maybe is more powerful than all the other things. The other thing you can do, and I've done this to a lot of my friends, is have them get out a piece of paper and write down the top 5 things that they need in their lives, right? They need groceries to cost less, gas to cost less. They need to be able to buy a house. They need interest rates to go down. They need to feel more safe. They need, better job opportunities. And after they write down the things they really need, if they were going to hire one of the 2 people to get them the things that they need, which of the 2 people can get them the things that they need? The person who has just shown you by already being in office that they are diabolically opposed to all the things you need, or the person who already helped you get the things you need that you now lost. And a lot of people have gone, damn, Kate, why did you make me do this exercise? Because I was completely all for voting for this lady because she's going to be the first lady president. I'll be the first lady president, okay? You don't need to vote for somebody just because they have a race and a gender that you want to see win. You need to vote for somebody to win for you and for your family and for the next generation.
Perfect. You heard her. She gave you marching orders. She's a former Marine. I dare you not to comply. Kate Monroe, former Marine, success coach and entrepreneur, CEO of multiple companies, including VetCom, where you're the founder and CEO. The website is vetcom.us. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
I can't
so much.
wait for you to come on again and talk to us. Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
All right, you too. You can also find out about Kate. Go to her website, katemonroeceo.com, katemonroeceo.com. We'll be right back.